1. And we welcome you into a Victory Monday. The Browns are 2-2 for the first time since 2014. First place in the AFC North. And last week, the sky wasn't falling. And yesterday, we kind of proved the sky clearly isn't falling as the Browns go into Baltimore and they knock off the Ravens 40-25. I'm Jason Gibbs. He's Nick Shook. He's Andrew Gribble. And gentlemen, an impressive day in Baltimore, I should say. And more
impressive today, though. We're all here.
It's
we're all
an
happy.
impressive day today.
Very nice.
I think the sun's out, maybe.
No, it's not out. Not out yet.
Okay.
I'm hoping later today it will be. An impressive win in Baltimore. And you can say what you want, but it is always nice when fans at the other stadium are leaving long before the game ends. And that's how you know you've dominated them. And yesterday, they were leaving a good 3 or 4 minutes into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those games that there was moments like this last year when you saw the team turning it around where you had that moment of adversity in the fourth quarter where your lead shrinks to 6. The Ravens got that 2-point conversion, and you're like, oh, we've seen this situation before, and we've seen the Browns be on the wrong end of the result by the end of it. And I think that feeling settled over a lot of people, especially people who are like, all right, this team's 1-2. They've been struggling. But like they did last year with exercising a lot of those demons, the Browns exercised that big demon right away, didn't waste any time with Nick Chubb's 88-yard run, and that was it. I mean, there were more opportunities for the Ravens to get back in that game after 2 touchdowns, but that is a Baltimore team that is not equipped to be coming back from double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. So the defense really took it from there. So I just thought getting past that kind of moment of adversity was so big for this team, especially in a division game. To be 2-2, the difference between 2-2 and 1-3 is just so massive. And now you get to go into San Francisco feeling really good about what you're doing.
You know, it's funny because I think old Browns and maybe old Browns mindset that some of us still have ingrained in our conscience, I think that we all were like, oh no, here it goes. Here's where it unravels.
There's not one person in the radio booth that wasn't thinking it when it got down to 6.
Here's where it unravels in the fourth quarter, and what should have been a great win turns into a loss. That's not what happened, but that is what happened to this team 3 weeks ago. I mean, almost the exact same scenario. The Browns come down and cut Tennessee's lead to a single score, and then Tennessee responds with a 75-yard screen to Derrick Henry for a touchdown, and that took the wind out of the Browns' sails. They do that exact thing to the Ravens, again on the road, and I think, you know, it was obviously the difference in this game, but it was just refreshing to see this team that, you know, has had such high expectations and has dealt with so much, I think, outside noise and adversity that comes from that, to band together and immediately respond and then carry it all the way through the rest of the quarter. I mean, yeah, did that kind of ice the game? Yes, but you still needed to finish out that quarter to make sure. And they piled on and really made a statement by the time everything was over.
It's good to win by 15 and know that the margin was wider, if not for a garbage time touchdown. Like that's when you know it's good. It kind of reminded me of the Bengals game last year when you went into Cincinnati and dominated that game where the final score didn't do it justice. You can say that about this game. This was a really in totality a 40-18 victory. I mean, you dominated Baltimore in their stadium, a Baltimore team that up until this point had been playing some really good football.
All right, let's get right into it. Takeaways from Sunday. Your biggest takeaway on the offense and your game ball on offense. Shook, we're going to start with you today.
I'm going to go away from the popular picks here, which is that, you know, this offense is in sync now and the running game, everything else. I'm going to go with the offensive line.
I knew it.
And I'm
going to
go because
I knew you were going to steal it.
Yes,
from me.
and I'm sorry, but the difference is so drastic. I mean, I think Chris Hubbard is a solid football player. He's not an all-pro tackle, but when he is included in that group, this starting five just becomes so much more reliable. They protect longer. They're more stout up front. You get less penetration from the opposing defenses, and it allows Baker Mayfield the time necessary to work. And I mean, he looked comfortable after that first series. That first series looked more of the same, and then they came out in the second. their second possession and really had probably their best drive up to that point of the entire season. It was methodical. It was well paced. They had a rhythm. They looked very confident in what they were doing and finished it with a well-designed play that got Ricky Seals-Jones open for a touchdown. And that all comes back to the offensive line's ability to open holes in the running game and to block consistently for Baker Mayfield. And for the first time this season, he looked like he trusted them entirely when he received the snap and dropped back to pass. And I think that made all the difference in the world for this team. So, yeah, everything else worked. All the skill players worked very well, but I don't think you go anywhere without the offensive line the way they played on Sunday.
Gribble?
I'll go with Baker Mayfield because I think that as he answered it in the press conference, the play calling always looks better when the quarterback doesn't suck. And I thought that he very much did not suck against the Ravens. And I thought that drive that you just talked about was that – I know he's only a second-year player, but that was vintage Browns Baker on that second drive, throwing passes to 6 different wide receivers. That's what has been missing. I mean, he was throwing it to the open guy. They were easy throws. There was no kind of not even really a tight window throw that you had to make there. Taking what the defense gave him and marched them right down the field, even though you did face a 1st and 25 on that drive. I mean, it was that's exactly what people have been clamoring for, and it's what he gave you. And him playing well just opens up everything. Baker kind of carried you in the first half offensively. Then Nick Chubb took over in the second half. And even then, Baker sprinkled in a couple big plays in the passing game in the second half to really get you down the field in a hurry. The first drive out of halftime, you go 3 plays, 75 yards. I mean, when he is good, this is a really good offense. He wasn't as good as he wanted to be those first 3 games. He was what you expected. I don't even put that interception on him in the first half, so I view it as a 1 touchdown, no interception kind of game. I can't put that on him. And so it's just this is what the offense should look like when you have your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, playing at that level.
All you got to do, in Chubb we trust.
Yeah.
Give the ball to Chubb. Right before halftime, you take a look at what happened inside the 10-yard line, and Baker with a running play, but 2 pass plays, you have to kick the field goal. And you're just banging your head on the window going, give the ball to the man. Give the ball to the guy. Well, Freddie said, relax. We're going to give the ball to Nick Chubb. And they did. 20 carries, 165 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 88-yard touchdown, which is the 3rd longest in team history. He owns 2 of the top 3 runs. The plays that he makes, the things he does, 3 catches in the football game as well. Some really key blocks as well, not just from him, but from the running backs in the backfield as well on blitz pickups.
Mm-hmm.
An outstanding game for him, and I credit it all to the Andrew Gribble pregame interview on radio, and that's the reason. Really
not to pat myself on the back from the award-winning edition of Fact or Fiction before the game, but one of the questions was Nick Chubb getting too many snaps the week before? Is that not good? And I said, fact. I thought he played too much against the Rams. You don't want your bell cow running back on the field for all but 2 plays, which is what happened the previous week. I thought there was maybe they want him to be a 3rd down back, and it was almost an overcorrection. You had it back to normal this week on a hot day, and all of a sudden he looks like the freshest guy in the field in the 4th quarter. You had a big performance from Dontrell Hilliard, who helped ice the game away even further in the 4th quarter, had some really good burst on some pass plays. That's the kind of balance you want at running back because you want your running back not to be worn out at the end of the game. Not saying he was worn out against the Rams, but he was outrunning everyone on that big carry, and you got to credit it to the mixed usage that him and Dontrell Hilliard had out there.
Yeah, it's funny. You thought as we got in that 4th quarter that he might, run out of gas, be a little bit tired, especially after that long run. He never got tired. And I mean, that's a testament to how he works in the offseason, the way he's built. If you look at the guy and just the way he's physically built, he's thick. I mean, he's built for this. He's built to run through multiple defenders before going down, and then also has that speed and that ability to really hit that extra gear and go the distance. But I do want to give credit, one more point, to Eric Kush, who had a great block on that 88-yard touchdown run. They run a quick toss to the right. He pulls out in front. J.C. Tretter's trying to pull out behind him, which a center pullout is always an ambitious endeavor. And Eric goes out, kicks the first man he engages out, and then as the flow of the play continues this way, he immediately meets the second guy, takes care of both of them, pushes them outside. Chubb does a great job of reading that block, going off his inside hip, and right up the field. The rest of it's history.
Yeah, it was a very impressive job by the offensive line yesterday.
Yeah.
Really, really job well done. On the defensive side of the ball, a takeaway, your game balls as well. Gribble.
I mean, I'll give the easy game ball to Jermaine Whitehead. I mean, he was all over the field. I don't think he had a great first 3 games of this season. Had a few too many penalties. Maybe wasn't matching what he had done in the preseason. But he came out and was just all over the place. Forced the fumble. Made the great interception in the end zone. I mean, this is the kind of player that we'd been hearing Steve Wilkes talk about ever since he got here. And I think that it's just another – it's symbolic of this entire secondary, which it was, again, without 3 starters, and you wouldn't have noticed. I mean, there wasn't a single play where they looked like they got beat. They limited Hollywood Brown. He never really broke out in any kind of way that game. Lamar Jackson never really had too many open throws. I say the one open throw he had was to a guy that stepped out of bounds before making the play. So, I mean, outside of that, your secondary just did another fantastic job for a second straight week, led by Jermaine Whitehead. And you finally, it looked like that was a Ravens team that was not going to turn the ball over. And all of a sudden you forced 3 turnovers against a team that came in the game with 0 turnovers. That was just a huge effort from the defense.
Yeah, and they were timely turnovers. I think every turnover has somewhat of a timeliness to it, but it seemed, the forced fumble that Whitehead caused, I mean, the Ravens were driving. They were going to come down and immediately answer what the Browns had done offensively, and then you immediately get that turnover and then go down and turn that into points, which was very important as well. But I think my game ball is tough because I kind of want to pick 2 guys here. Joe Schobert, statistically, crazy, excellent game. 17 combined tackles, a sack, 1 QB hit, 2 tackles for loss. I mean,
he was involved in that fumble, too.
Yeah, he had the
part
first
of that.
hit. He hit Ingram,
Yeah.
and then Whitehead cleaned it up, and that's when he forced the ball out just before Ingram hit the ground. Great team effort there. But you know what? I'll tell you what, this is probably a 2-game thing for me now. Larry Ogunjobi's really stood out. I mean, when you just watch the game and you watch what he's doing in the interior, he's not the biggest guy, but he's quick, and he's winning with his quickness and his strength and his hand ability. He's got these, very masterful hands that allows him to beat guys off the line. He destroyed Baltimore's right guard on a specific play yesterday where he just had such a quick swim move, and he was in the backfield before you could even blink and made a tackle for loss. So, he's had a good string of games here, and he really stood out to me. So Joe Schobert wins statistically, but Larry looks really good on tape, and so it could be a tie.
It's always good when the Browns defense gets 4 sacks, and Myles Garrett didn't have one of them.
Yep.
I mean, that was a we saw
It's a
Olivier.
quiet day for Myles.
Yeah, I saw Olivier Vernon got involved. You see even Demarius Randall. That's now 3 sacks this season by safeties on this team, so something to keep an eye on.
The safety blitz, it's usually called well. Steve Wilkes always calls it at the right time. It always works.
Olivier could have come out with a second one, but Lamar did a Houdini act to get that pass out. I mean, that was incredible. So big. I thought it was a big performance from Olivier Vernon, and really this defensive line, again, equally as deep as the secondary. You had by far the most snaps of all of the entire season played by the backup defensive lineman. Devereaux Lawrence was out there for 29 snaps. Chris Smith, 24. I think Chad Thomas had the fewest of the backup defensive linemen, was still about 20, and he made a big play scooping up that fumble.
Well, and that's where I was going with my game ball, was those backup defensive linemen, because midway through the third quarter, our guys were gassed.
Yeah.
Our starters. And then they kind of subbed everybody out, and that's that second line did exactly what you wanted it to do. Pick up the slack, give the guys a breather, and created a big turnover.
Yeah, Devereaux was again an animal when he came in. He was so effective on a certain stretch of plays that people in the press box were wondering, oh, so that was Sheldon on that play, right? 98? No, that was 99. Not quite as big, but just as effective. So, yeah, the depth up front is definitely showing.
Yeah, impressive. And then in special teams, they just continue to make plays. Seibert, 2 for 2 on field goals, 7 for 7 now on the year.
Yeah,
8 of 9 on extra points. Scottish Hammer didn't have his best net day, but
didn't have to do much.
Didn't have to. Yeah, exactly what you want from your punter. A nice, quiet afternoon on the sideline.
Yeah.
I thought Seibert's underrated moment of the game was Seibert's long field goal there in the fourth quarter, making that a 15-point game. I thought that was significant, and that was one of those where if you miss that could also turn into a momentum swing for Baltimore there, where they're not quite dead yet. But that field goal there, I thought was big because it just gives you, even though it's still a 2-possession game, it gives you just a little bit more breathing room where you felt better about your lead.
Yeah, because you feel in that situation, even if they were able to make up those 15 points, they would have to do so by getting that 2-point conversion, which they would obviously go for, or understandably usually go for the second time they would score. It just makes the task that much greater for them to erase a deficit. So the mental aspect of it, both the boost in confidence for him to be able to hit from distance, which he's proven he's actually better from longer field goals than shorter, and remaining perfect on the year as a field goal kicker, and then winning that mental side as well. It really helped.
All right, unsung hero. Who's the guy, or I guess maybe the position group we can lob in there too, that had a bigger impact than maybe what we're talking about here today?
I'll go with the Browns tight ends as a whole. I think that they've been put in a tough spot without David Njoku. And I know Ricky Seals-Jones is the guy that made the big plays in this game, but that group as a whole, all of them played a bunch. I think that Ricky Seals-Jones had the fewest snaps of the group with like 21, but Pharaoh Brown was out there more than he's ever been
playing
this season.
Fullback.
And I think that Demetrius Harris didn't play as much as he did the previous week, but he played the majority of plays, and that allowed you. It showed that there was more trust in going with two tight end packages, which, if the numbers show, that's what Baker likes playing out of perhaps the most, and it showed that. After maybe being a little bit reluctant to put those guys in pass-catching situations, all of them were out there running routes, giving Baker some options, and he did not hesitate to throw. I thought the most impressive moment was when Baker threw a back shoulder throw to Ricky Seals-Jones on third down. That takes timing, trust, chemistry, and that's a guy that's been on the team for only a few weeks, and he showed this past game. I don't know if I want Ricky Seals-Jones out there blocking for me on 3rd and 1, but he's a former wide receiver, has good hands, and he looks like a wide receiver when he has the ball in his hands. And I thought that was an impressive game, and he gives you the element that you're missing with David Njoku out. He's not the same kind of talent that David Njoku is, but he has the pass-catching ability that can really help you out in his absence.
It's funny that we all saw the impact that Seals-Jones made. It seemed like every catch he made was important, which I think is key. Freddie talked about it afterward. That he wasn't surprised because he knew what he could do. I mean, when you see a guy like that on the waiver wire, you do everything you can to go get him, and I think they were very pleased to get him at the time, and he's obviously proving his worth now.
It amazes. I mean, what were the Browns on the waiver wire? On that waiver wire, 17.
Yeah, and you know what? It was pointed out yesterday by Bob Labriola of the Steelers. The Steelers put in a claim for Ricky Seals-Jones too, so he would have gone to Pittsburgh had the Browns not claimed him, and the Steelers just had to trade a 5th-round pick to get a backup tight end on board.
Vance McDonald's in a sling.
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen?
And I think Xavier Grimble's out for the season, so they had to make a move, and they had to give up another draft pick for a backup tight end. So double score there by getting a guy that can help you out and hurts the Steelers.
And then on the Pharaoh Brown side, he had a catch the week before. It was negated by penalty, so I saw him in the locker room after. I go, hey, congrats, you got a catch that wasn't taken away. He said, yeah, I caught it. I got up and I looked around and I was looking in all directions. Is there a flag? Oh, no. Okay, this is a catch. I'm actually going to keep this.
That was a big one, too. That was 18 yards on 1st and 25, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was
got
huge.
back a ton.
Yes. Yeah. And then ended up scoring on that drive.
Yeah, not too shabby. Your unsung hero, Mr. Shook.
I'm going to go with a surprise, and it's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. because statistically he didn't have a great game, but his presence on the field, the Ravens always had to account for it. From the start of the game all the way to the end, and there were many times where him being there opened up things for everybody else. The most notable one is the Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown catch. They run a mesh play. Beckham runs the drag to the right. They got linebackers in zone. The middle linebacker sees him crossing. As Ricky is crossing, Beckham's crossing, and he sees 13, and he starts to take a step and a half toward Beckham, and by that point, he's given Seals-Jones 5 yards. He's got his momentum. He's already moving. By the time the pass is out there's no one to defend him. He walks into the end zone for a touchdown. That's the type of effect you can have on the field, even if you're not making those catches. They played good defense on him for the most part throughout that game, and that's why he was limited to his stat line that he had, which is 2 catches, 20 yards on 7 targets. But all the other open space that was created by them paying attention, even Seals-Jones' other catch, the long catch down the sideline, was a product of the Ravens trying to double team Odell Beckham. So, sometimes it's not statistic, but it's on the field, and it's obvious when you watch it, and Odell Beckham has that impact on every game.
We want to talk about waiver claims, my unsung hero. We talk about Seals-Jones, but Kaderil Hodge, time in and time again, he's down the field, and he's the first one making the stop. It's either him or Tavi or Thomas.
Yep.
Every time down the field on special teams. And Hodge the Ravens could not break anything. And back-to-back weeks, you're going up against elite special teams units. And he's a big reason why they were held in check yet again.
Special teams coordinator Mike Prefer said at the end of last week, the reason that these guys are so good at special teams, which is usually a chore for most players, you would think about it would be a chore, is because they love it. They just want to be out there and be the best at it, and I think you're seeing the product of that.
Well, Prefer said he was one of the best gunners in the NFL, and he couldn't believe that he got released by the Rams. So it's a good find to have. I think he definitely has a place on this team moving forward, no matter what, because you've just come so far on special teams in 1 year that you've got to keep all these guys in place moving forward.
Yeah, an impressive performance as well. Obviously, the big injury from yesterday, Jarvis Landry in concussion protocol. We'll see how things play out with him as the week goes. I mean, if you're Freddie and company on the offensive side, you're hoping that Antonio Callaway is in playing shape and ready to go here for whatever might face the Browns 1 week from today when we go to San Francisco. And you're hoping that Hollywood Higgins is finally able to get back on the field as well.
Yeah, it'd help to have both those guys back. It might be hard to expect a ton out of Callaway, it being his first action since the suspension, but he's got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't expect a full workload, at least initially for him. But you do have the extra day with Jarvis. Not saying that it'll make a difference, but those things always help. Not a lot of guys come back from a concussion after a week, but it's happened before. So if you can have him back, it'd be huge for the offense. If not, you still have Odell Beckham. You still could have Rashard Higgins out there. You should be fine. Davian Ratley's been solid. You should have enough to believe you can go into San Francisco and do what you just did in Baltimore.
It's kind of it was a little bit eye-opening to me when you were just listing those names that the Browns haven't had Antonio Callaway, Rashard Higgins, and even for a quarter yesterday, Jarvis Landry, and the fact that they could put up these points that they did. I mean, they've been making do, and that's a big part of the process of being a winning team in the NFL over the course of a 17-week season is being able to adjust on the fly when you lose guys like that, whether it's to injury or suspension or whatever else. And so far, they're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, the key name to watch is Ratley because it sounded like Freddie Kitchens was applauding him yesterday after the game because he has the ability to play all three positions. So if you have Higgins back, ideally you put Ratley where Jarvis is and Higgins back in his old spot, and then you should be all right.
Yeah. I think we watch and wait. Sheldon Richardson got dinged up a little bit, but he came back to action.
And if it's something like a hand, that's the best position where I guess it happens.
Club it up.
If he's got a claw or
Club it up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but he's not a wide receiver, even though Devereaux looked like one catching that deflected
it was
pass.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
A job well done. This is going to be a weird week again. We practice on Tuesday, off Wednesday, and then it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday type practice schedule. And then we got to fly to the West Coast. And for personal reasons, I love going an extra day early. We will not be going an extra day early. We will get in Sunday night, and we will play on Monday night. West Coast, there's a lot of factors here. It does not get any easier for this football team. And then a quick turnaround with Seattle. We're not looking to Seattle yet.
Seattle plays Thursday, too, so they're going to have 10 days.
Yeah. This 49er week's going to be a little different and a little weird, I think, for this football team.
But I go back to last year. This team's best games have all happened on the road. I mean, some of the best performances under Baker Mayfield, Freddie Kitchens, and company, all on the road. I think they've had a couple. I think their best home game was the Falcons game, maybe followed up by that Panthers game. Otherwise, you had the Bengals on the road, that Broncos game on the road. It's just one of those things where they just seem a little bit more dialed in, a little more focused. And I don't even know what the records are. I can't imagine when the last time the Browns opened the season 3-0 on the road.
Yeah, and right now
it's been since '94 for 2-0 on the road.
Right now, 0-2 at home, 2-0 on the road. So it's not a bad thing that we're going to be hitting the road again this week.
All right, what do we look for as the Browns get ready for the 49ers? We'll preview the 49ers later in the week, but what are some things that you're watching for this week in practice? What do we got to work on?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, this seems like an easy answer, but what do you do in the secondary when you start getting these guys back? Can you just go back to not playing these guys who have played so well these last couple weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, Denzel Ward's back. You put Denzel Ward on the field. Greedy Williams is back. You put Greedy on the field. But it's just going to be interesting to see how things shake out, especially with Jermaine Whitehead if Morgan Burnett's able to come back. Jermaine Whitehead's played so well. He's still out there for a lot of 3 safety looks, but you're going to be cutting down a decent chunk of playing time for a secondary that's really kept you in the game both of these games. Really just shut down, not really shut down, but limited what these other teams do best. So once you start getting guys healthy, it'll be interesting to see how after what you do after you've been so impressed by guys that have played.
Yeah, we've showered praise on John Dorsey for the work he's done in reshaping this roster and getting big name talents like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham and everybody else. But Wow, what a job he's done with his defense, and especially the secondary. I mean, deeper, and just as much credit goes to Steve Wilkes for putting him in the perfect positions to make plays. But, I mean, this is way deeper of a group than I think we realized, and they've really proven their worth in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, we will get ready for week number 5 of the 2019 football season. Another trip to Monday night and a trip to San Francisco to take on the 49ers, although it's like Santa Clara. It's not San Francisco. We're not staying anywhere close to San Francisco.
Sadly.
Sadly, indeed. For Andrew Gribble, for Nick Shook, I'm Jason Gibbs. We're back with you later in the week. You can subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Best Podcast Available, or log on to clevelandbrowns.com for this one or any of our previous episodes that featured Austin Seibert, Larry Ogunjobi, Christian Kirksey, just to name a few guys. All that, and later in the week, a preview of Monday Night Football between the Browns and 49ers. This has been the Best Podcast Available.